Hello.
Are there any questions or any thoughts, anything from this past week that anyone may have?
Just an observation. I don't know. I woke up from a dream, and these were the words that were resonating from that dream. It was real relief, real relief. There's comfort in your service, press on. Real relief, there's comfort in your service, press on. And when you pray, same thing. It's almost like a song, like one of those old-timey songs. And I couldn't figure that out because I'm not, it's good when it's good, but this is along those lines. When you serve, real relief when you serve, there's comfort in your service, press on. Don't give up. Don't give up. Just endure. Just endure. Then the next line is rest in God. Rest in God. And then the other one is be still and know. Just stay the course. There's comfort in your service. Press on. So those are the words that I don't know, in this dream were resonating. So I tried to write them as soon as I got it, because I rarely have an opportunity to remember. But it looks like I'm remembering a little bit more now. But it's just my observation that we should stay encouraged. That when we think we're not making any progress or moving at all, that we are, and that there is real relief being felt everywhere because of the little things that we think we are doing or not doing. But we are, it's a big thing.
That's significant to me.
Is it?
Yep. This morning I was talking to somebody, and they asked me how did I feel since I got back. And my response was, my body is rested. But I feel a bit apprehensive about how things are going. I felt like we're marking time. There was no progress being made. And after I got off the phone, I was thinking that maybe you're too close to it. I don't know. And I just left it alone. So that's very significant to me. I have to keep reminding myself that everything we do is significant, and that there are no coincidences. And the reason that's important to me is because up until recently, I never had to remind myself that there are no coincidences. I just automatically felt that, knew that. But now it's almost like I have to remind myself that there are no coincidences. It's like returning to the basics again. The things that I felt I had overcome or conquered are resurfacing, but in a different way. So, and honestly, I try to stay away from the news, because when you listen at how disconnected people are from each other, especially in this country, it makes you feel like nobody really cares, and what we are doing is actually a waste of time. I mean, when I listen at the guy Wolf Blitzer raised a question with Ron Paul concerning a hypothetical situation with a 30-year-old man who was unconscious and needed medical care. What do you do with him? Well, just make a long story short, some of the people from the audience yelled, "Let him die."
Wow.
And
whoa.
And nobody challenged it. To say "let him die" is not the bad thing. That's how he felt. But the worst part of that is nobody challenged it. And that in itself resonated deeply with me. What significant changes are we making, if any at all? What kind of impact are we having, if any at all, on what's transpiring? So, and of course, what comes back is the reason the darkness is appearing is because of the light. So, and all this stuff I understand, but understanding it, am I understanding it intellectually, or am I accepting it spiritually? You know, you see the difference.
But I think that's why we're here, to continuously remind each other and to encourage each other, because who else will do it? And who else is doing it?
It's never been so nakedly obvious before how people feel about each other.
Yes.
I think it's always been an undercurrent, and there's this willingness to take advantage of one another, but it's just plain for everyone to see now. Yeah. There's no shame in it at all.
Well, one of the things that keeps me focused is that I remind myself, is you, Bob? I remind myself of, okay, I know how, what your thoughts were prior to your coming to Foundation. And with the depth of thought that you give to things and the depth of research that you engage in, and to be where you are in terms of your thought, that kind of helps me stay on track. It helps me to see, because my thing is that, you know what, out of all the people in both places who do all this research and stuff, if it was wrong, somebody would have seen it by now. It's a struggle to stay focused. It's a real struggle, because I feel discombobulated. I feel off balance. And I've never felt this off balance in my life. Not since I've been on this course. I've never felt this off balance as I do now.
Oh, I wonder if part of that is a part of everything that's being ushered in. I mean, it doesn't mean that we won't be affected just like other people. It's what we do about it. And it may be easier for us to sense the off-balanceness, as it is not as easy for someone to see how blatantly their disconnection from somebody might harm them or hurt them. And I think that's probably what part of that is too. We're just hypersensitive to things that it's so much easier to feel that discombobulation. And so that's why we have to remind each other to hang in there, to stay focused. That it does make a difference. That even if we don't see anybody benefiting from what we do, that it's happening, and it's happening at a scale we can't even imagine. They may not see it yet, even. So
I was reading something a while ago.
Bless you.
Bless you.
Oh, I didn't realize I was on speaker.
Yeah, you are. Now you know.
Actually, I had a question, because y'all are talking about something I kind of started to feel. I've been feeling for a little bit, but noticed last night there were these prophets of doom. I know I probably shouldn't watch this stuff on TV. And the thing about it was, I was thinking in the midst of what they were talking about, because all the scenarios seemed possible and plausible, was what are we supposed to do? I mean, I know it's not to panic or to worry about it. So, what is it we're supposed to do? And I was thinking about the off-balance comment, because it made me feel very off-balance. And like you were saying, Mom, it makes me feel like we may experience what a lot of other people are going to experience. It's like, well, what are we supposed to do? Even with the reaction, it's a weird place to be in.
Tell me about it.
It's good.
I was reading something, And what happened? What I was reading was when Jesus was on the cross, and he said, what is it, Eli something? Why was it left in the Aramaic as opposed to being translated? When they translated, they said, my God, why hast thou forsaken me? But what I found out was that word has 5 different meanings. And what he was actually saying is, oh God, for this purpose I have lived. This is my destiny. Is what he was actually saying. And I thought about, okay, so that being the case, why is it's just not being brought to the surface? Why are we just not seeing that? And coupled with my feeling of being off balance, when he made that statement, was he feeling off balance? You know, are we at a point of crucifixion? You know, because of taking a stand for something? Are we at the point of death to all of those things that we have seen to be untrue? You know, what's happening? Why is this off? Why are we teetering on this edge? Because being off balance gives me a sense of teetering on the edge of something, and not one to actually fall in either direction, but to stay balanced, so that progression can be made. But as Randy was talking about the prophets of doom, you know, taking off balance, my question, I guess, is maybe we need to be off balance. Maybe off balance is balance. Maybe not. Maybe what we perceive to be balance is trying to balance what we once believed with what we believe. And that in itself is being off balance. Because you have to be all in or not. So, is that off balance? Is the balance actually walking on the flat surface of what you believe, as opposed to walking on the edge of what you once believed and what you believe now? Does that make sense?
Yes.
And to walk on that flat surface is actually more threatening than walking on that edge. The question is, how do you walk on that flat surface of what you believe? And constantly, how do you do that without teetering or feeling this sense of being off balance?
Well, I've got one response to Rainia's question about what do you do, and there are other responses too. Just like there's so many meanings to what you said, Jesus said, and so there are lots of different meanings. That's what Aramaic is all about. One of the things that you do is that you absorb it, as you have taught us. You absorb it and you transform it through your certainty. Through your certainty, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that's not the end. Whatever is being prophesied is not the end. We've talked about beginning. We've talked about everything is beginning, and no matter how it's perceived, everything is beginning. And when we stay positive about that, that begins to transform that, because that transformation begins in our minds, and our minds are the things that change things. Our minds are what changes our perception. So, Rainia, just absorb it and stay certain in what you believe.
I guess I understand that. Part of what I believe, though, is the beginning is also the end, which is a hard thing for lots of folks.
I understood.
There's no such thing as the end of the scriptures.
Nations rise and fall, and I look at us and we seem to be falling, which is, that's the nature of what man builds. I guess it's the certainty of what's rising I need to focus on more than the falling too. Because that's the hard thing. That's what people see. That's what they're caught up in, and that's what I deal with day to day, instead of what's rising.
I want to go.
And that's why you're there. I'm sorry. That's why you are there, because that's all they can see right now. And you're the one who sees the other. Excuse me.
I was going to say it's a balance, a matter of perspective, because these doomsday people. Well, who knows what exactly is their perspective? Are they coming at it from a perspective of their own knowledge, their own feelings about whatever? Are they coming at a perspective of belief in the Creator, or not having a belief in the Creator? I mean, what's their perspective? And then your perspective is that you do have a belief in the Creator, and you know who you are relative to the Creator. So, I think that's how we bring balance, because of our perspective.
I think that when you say what is their perspective is the same as ours was and still is to a certain degree. When you look at it from the Hebrew and the Aramaic perspective, there is no such thing as an end. The scriptures, when you look at the scriptures from that perspective, that it, as Bob was saying earlier, is always beginning. There is no such thing as end. When you listen at Paul talked about being caught up in the third heaven, it indicates that he's familiar with the creation story of beginnings. When you listen at how Jesus talked about before Moses, before Abraham, I am, or I was, that's the creation story. So the doomsday are speaking from the perspective of the end times, and the end times are not the end times in terms of something coming to an abrupt halt. It is always beginnings as opposed to endings. So the perspective from which the prophets, the so-called prophets, are speaking, they are speaking from a perspective of things coming to an end.
Well,
yeah,
exactly. When there's no such thing as an end.
But I think when the things that they actually see is coming to an end from their perspective is only because we're moving into a new age, so things are just changing. So what is known or what they have based everything on, or the dimension or the level that they have lived on, they see as transpiring. And I think the things that they said, because I saw that too with Ron Paul, was them just trying to hang on to that and trying to not let it pass away, because they see an end of their heaven and hell, not their heaven and hell, but when we're talking about heaven and earth shall pass away, yeah. That is what's taking place.
But even the idea, the word pass away from the Aramaic perspective, I looked that up.
Yeah, it was just talking about really it almost transforming.
About 6 months ago, yeah. But
not necessarily ceasing to exist, but transforming.
It's a transformation that takes place as opposed to an end.
Yes. And
what happened is that when the separation was postulated, the separation between nature, man, and God, when that was put forth, that's when the idea of the end caught on. There is no way that you can see the nature, man, and the created being intertwined, being one. There's no way you can see that as being one and come to a conclusion that there is something called an end. Because if that be the case, then there's an end to the Creator. So the only way you can contemplate an end, especially a doomsday end, is for you to separate yourself from the Creator. And in seeing yourself separate from the Creator, you see yourself not only as being finite, but also temporal.
So it is a matter of perspective then, because if they perceive it as catastrophe or the end, we perceive it as transformation or a new beginning.
Are we beginning to perceive it as that? Because
yes,
because that's a struggle. That's a struggle to begin to perceive it as beginning each time, as opposed to end. Because we talk about we want to end to our struggles, rather than talk about a new beginning or a fresh start.
Yeah.
You know, we talk about I'll be glad when this life as I know it ends. I'll be glad when my financial struggles ends. I'll be, you know, that kind of thing. Yeah. As opposed to seeing it as a continuum that continues into the past.
And as soon as you'll be glad when something ends, that's just as long as you're going to stay in it.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Yeah.
I was going to say that it's that perception we have of the quote-unquote finality of death that kind of boxes so many of us in. And once you get past that perception that death is not an end.
It's fluid.
Yeah, the death of this body is not an end. And the other observation I have is that what we're talking about is the 8th day of creation. Well, that's what we're into now. And that's why there are no ends. I mean, everything that we create, every moment, everything that we say creates the next and the next and the next. So even what we say as it relates to these doomsday kinds of prophecies and how we transform that with our thinking and our words creates the next moment and event. So this is the 8th day that we're really, that's why I think part of the imbalance that we perceive, we've never been to this level of, this degree of understanding. And there's so much more above this, but this degree of understanding that that we have, that we are in right now.
I got a question.
So the caterpillar metamorphosed into a butterfly. The caterpillar did not pass away.
No.
Oh, I thought you was gonna. All right, question. The end of days type thing. How does that impact our teens? We hear it a lot in church. You know, it's almost like a no hope type thing. How does that impact our youth?
It gives them no hope.
So,
I mean, that's exactly why they have no hope, because the idea of no hope does not start in the neighborhoods. It starts in the church and filters into the
I was
neighborhood.
about to say, it actually didn't just start. That's been going on as far as the end days in church is concerned.
Yeah, everybody looking for the end times. You know, everybody looking for this rapture thing. When you said the thing about the metamorphosis of the caterpillar and the butterfly, it struck me that if the caterpillar stayed, was in that cocoon and stayed on the edge between being a caterpillar and butterfly.
Chrysalis.
Huh?
Chrysalis.
Okay. He would never ever fly. We would never see a butterfly. You see? So I suppose the moving is the thing that's happened, maybe the discomfort, is that we're beginning to see something we're not accustomed to seeing, or become something that we're not accustomed to being, or feeling something that we're not accustomed to feeling. Maybe that's what it is. I don't know. But I do know that it's been a while since I've been feeling what I feel, but it's almost like it's reaching a crescendo now.
But it's almost like you just said it, just I know Evelyn got a question. It affirms what you just said. That 11/11/11 is a gateway opening, and part of this is part of that. Is this different feeling, and each new transition probably will put us in that place that we just have to push through, to press through it.
What's the question?
No, I wait.
Maybe we're learning how to move beyond the gate. Because going through a gateway means nothing if you stand there. Because you're still halted between two opinions, the last gate and the one you enter. So maybe we have to figure out, or maybe we are figuring, I don't know, that moving beyond the gate that we enter gives us a different, that's mine, that's yours. Thank you. Gives us a different feeling. You know, moving beyond the, it's like moving from, I remember when I moved from high school to college. I didn't want to graduate from high school because I knew the bills and self-responsibility, all the other stuff that came along with graduating. And I remember that with my friends, I'm saying, like, you know what? I am not happy to be graduated. And they were like, why? And I told them why. I don't want to be paying bills, and I don't want to be paying, I don't want to be doing, I went down the list of things. But after I moved beyond that gate of graduation from high school into the area of college, everything changed. It was not as overwhelming as I had anticipated it would be. So maybe the discomfort or the imbalance is in that we feel overwhelmed by what we see, by the disconnection between people, by feel overwhelmed by the blatant, as Julie said, the blatant disconnect that's out there, or hatred that's out there. We feel overwhelmed by that. I know that's probably what I'm feeling, overwhelmed. And I suppose I need to deal with it the same way that I dealt with it when I first began looking beyond what was written on the pages and trying to understand what actually the scriptures are actually saying. That in itself is overwhelming because of all the people around me who would tell me I was crazy or that it wasn't necessary. So how do we do that? I began to see myself as entering this body. In actuality, where I dealt with it, and sometimes still, is that I could see, I would close my eyes, and I would see myself as the universe being in this body in order to relate to other people in a body like this. That's how it felt like if I were the universe and all these things that were overwhelming me were smaller than me. So it helped me to get beyond that sense of being overwhelmed. Maybe that's what I need now, I don't know.
It worked before.
You put somebody come together. You put yourself in a position to really realize your power in doing that.
I wish I could make it work.
Sure, you did at that moment.
Yeah.
You completely took over a situation, or what was perceived as a situation, to the point where it wasn't a situation.
That's the point.
So what, the things that we see on the surface that's happening, all the things that we say are bad or negative, is it something that we need to deal with personally?
As far as
I don't know if that's how I should ask it, but that's how it come out.
So he got the answer where it come out.
And he looking at me like, I'm gonna see how you gonna answer this.
Yeah, you're teaching now. You're in charge now. Yeah, I mean, that's just the question I have.
Each one of us has that responsibility.
Yes.
Everything
to
is
deal
personal.
with our perceptions.
Everything is personal to when I say personal, whatever happens to you is personal to me. But
how we think, we feel as though that we're not connected to one another because we see ourselves as separate egos walking around. But even how we feel, like I ain't saying nothing when the pastor was talking about it, but I could feel something from him as soon as I walked in here, that he wasn't as calm as normal. The only thing I did was spoke to him, and that was it. So we still, on a certain level, can feel one another. So it's his job, it's our jobs, it's all of our jobs. Now, usually we pull off of him, so he has to pull off of us today.
Well, I don't know why he's like that. He just came off vacation, but no.
That's probably Now, there are some things that need to take place that hasn't.
I know.
And even I feel that being uncomfortable in an uncomfortable situation, though, even that pushes you to something different. It makes you aware of things. And I know as soon as I came in here, and like all of a sudden the entire world was different because my mother started seeming different and everything like that. It was just all of a sudden I was very sensitive and I could see things that I couldn't see before. So it seemed like everyone in a way was very selfish. Like I could see tiny little things. Really, you didn't do that because that wasn't out of love.
That's real little tiny little things.
He just called it, you see.
That's real little.
You got it.
But what helping me cope with things in the earth is realizing that I am my brother.
Yeah. But that draws more compassion out of you when you feel these things and you see these things. So all of a sudden now your heart is drawn out. So I guess it would say that it's our particular job to turn that into something good and not turn it into something bad and negative, because we can look at it from the perspective in which we choose to look at it. He won't say something.
Yes. That's one of the things I believe that it just struck me. We got to stop functioning in the earth. We have to stop functioning in the earth.
So basically what he's saying is, yes, it's meant for us to see these things. It's made for us to be more sensitive. Actually, all these things were already there, but by us seeing them, we have a chance to control them and decide what they actually are, whether they're good or bad. And because we're more sensitive, we cannot get caught up in earthly things and just seeing how bad they are, because they're not actually bad.
And I'm taking it even further than that. That we are not supposed to function in the earth, period. We are in this world, but we're not of this world.
And we also must realize that, which I was going to talk about a little bit today. But how we going to get there?
Nice little segue, right?
No, I'm just acting silly. But seriously, every you're gonna have more problems before you leave. I'm only joking.
I translated.
But seriously, we also must realize when we're talking about we're not looking at everything from a surface level. We must remember that everything that everyone does, the only thing they're doing is operating on fear, hate, and anger, or a lower level of themselves. And when you look at it from that standpoint, it's not bad, it's just what they're actually doing. So it's not, when I was looking at the thing, we kept talking about good earlier today. The only thing that good means is an action of goodness is an action that is done with your intent being in love. That is what good is.
Or the right thing done at the right place at the right time.
That's what good is.
Rightness.
And anytime you are doing something out of love and your actions are pushed upon from that particular force, then it's automatically good.
Yeah.
That's the only thing good is. Only what is bad, and I don't want to say bad. Bad is just to do the opposite. Right. Yeah, so bad is to do something out of any action that is done out of anger or hatred or fear. That is all that bad is. So everyone does these things. There is no level to say something is more good or more bad, etc. It's just how you do these actions, what your intent, how your heart is set as you do these things, as you live your life as you be.
Can I?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay. If we had talked about what the Lord's Prayer means 3 years ago, we would have been doing the wrong thing, the wrong thing at the wrong time. You see?
Yes.
And that would have been bad. That's not right. But I wanted.
But we did talk about it, but it was our understanding at the time.
What I mean is, as we do it now,
Yeah.
as we did it right now. That's what I meant. Well, I want to elaborate a little bit, if I may, on what I mean by being we don't function in the earth. What I'm talking about is that we must live above the rules that are set up in the earth. What I mean by the rules, I'm talking about there are those things that we still have in our system of beliefs that originated with people who had no understanding of the scriptures at all, or had a great deal of understanding and sought to manipulate it for their purposes. And we have to live beyond those rules, meaning that the rules by which we live must be those rules which we find in the scripture with the true meaning as opposed to the manipulated meaning. Now, when we function in the earth, to cease functioning in the earth is very, very difficult. It's very difficult because when you cease functioning in the earth, you don't allow things that happen that you perceive to be negative or adverse to affect you in any way whatsoever. They just happen. You can look at something with compassion, but at the same time, you understand that there's a greater good to it. You can look at, for example, the plane that crashed into the stands the other night, last night. That kind of thing. Great compassion, but there's a greater meaning to it. Barbara talked about the perception of death of these bodies, realizing that there is a fluidity to life, and that the only sense of death that's recognizable by us is the perception that you're disconnected from the Creator. That's the only death that we know of, because beyond that is fluid. Life is fluid, and life even flows beyond the grave that we live in. The moment you do this, you shall surely die. The body, life lives beyond the bodies that we live in, which also means that we don't spend so much time in a protective mode, trying to preserve the bodies. If you preserve life, the body will be preserved.
That automatically frees you. We were talking about last week with freedom. That frees you tremendously. There is no law. You don't do things because there's a law, because there's a punishment that corresponds with anything like that. You do it out of love because that is the right thing to do. So because of that, you are free and you have no restrictions in anything that you actually do.
You don't shoplift. The reason you don't shoplift is not because it's a law in the book. You don't do it because you know it doesn't belong to you.
Yes.
You see?
Yes.
If there were no law on the books, what would you do?
If everyone lived like this, there would be absolutely no need for a law whatsoever. Not to say, there's more reasons for that than laws actually exist, but I'm saying everyone could actually live with harmony without there being any problems or anything like that.
And that's living beyond the earth. The freedom comes in living beyond the earth when you don't have to have those rules to regulate your life.
Yeah.
You do it because it's the right thing to do, period. And sometimes the right thing to do cuts across the grain of what we think the right thing is. You know?
It definitely makes you a heretic. It definitely makes you sometimes not a law-abiding citizen, or someone just doing something that's completely morally wrong.
I mean, even when you look at it, the idea of being a pagan, right? The word pagan comes from a root that means to be a country dweller. That's all it means. And it was used by the bishops to make reference to people who lived in the country who were not educated, who could not read.
In actuality, they were most likely closer to the Creator as well, though, because the only thing they were some indigenous people.
Well, they were,
yeah,
because
lived off the earth and was just close to nature.
See, this is the thing I think we are beginning to realize maybe is that the indigenous people did not have a religion. They did not have the written etiquettes. They did not have the dogma, because that was their life. The oneness with nature, the oneness with the Creator, that was their life.
Respect for animals, realizing how everything was one big circle, giving and taking.
During the tsunami, they would lead the animals to the mountain because they knew what was coming. But when that separation came, when we began to write the dogma, when we began to set the rules, that's when that separation came between us and nature, because we feel like we were above nature. That idea to dominate the earth doesn't mean to dominate the earth in a negative fashion. It doesn't mean to make it subject to you. It means to live in what is it? Unison with it. That's what it means. It doesn't. The idea of manifest destiny is crazy. Who was the English philosopher who said that that the earth is given by God for the benefit of man, and we're supposed to take all we can from it? That kind of thing. That is crazy. The idea of dominating the earth is not to take advantage of it. The idea of dominating the earth is not talking about digging up the ground and the trees. It's respecting it. And when you begin to respect the material, you automatically begin to respect the spiritual. You become one with the material, you automatically one with the spiritual. Because all are one. That's the essence of it. You know, it has not been that long that they began to realize that even rocks are not inanimate objects, that they have an aura, a living aura about them. So when we come to the place to begin to respect those things as such, then that's when we began to be what we talk about, as opposed to talking about what we want to be.
That makes sense.
Okay. Thank you. And I tell you, I still feel the same. It hasn't changed. I still feel the same. I'm not saying it won't change, but I'm not going to tell you that it has, and maybe it's not supposed to now. I don't know.
It's supposed to.
So I'm good with that.
What, you mean the way you're feeling?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm good with that, because if I were not experiencing what I'm experiencing, we wouldn't be talking about what we're talking about maybe. So I'm good with that. I really am. Is it a good feeling? No, it's not. Is it an experience that I would rather not have? Absolutely. But for some reason, it is necessary.
It is necessary, because it's not unlike what we've been talking about. It's those things that that keep us off balance, that push us forward. So, I mean, yours is just at a different level.
Not allowing you to be stagnant.
Yeah. So, it's a necessary feeling.
But it's been experienced, but never to this degree.
Of course.
That's
so. Let's look at what always came from that that feeling in the past.
Sheldon.
Payback and stuff. You're right. And I'm gonna tell you one of the things that bothers me greater than anything else. every time that I have sat down to write, I'm so agitated, for lack of a better term, and I don't mean that in a negative at all, that until I cannot seemingly formulate the thoughts. I can sit here and talk to you about the first chapter of Genesis, second chapter of the creations, and those two, and show you the duality and why they were necessary. But when I sit to write it, it doesn't happen. When I talk about the idea of hate and curses, I can talk about it all day long, but when I sit to write, it doesn't happen.
What were you trying to write it for?
Because I want to put it on the site for the people.
You know what? It might not be meant for them to have it just yet.
I was just going to say, Sage, is it not what you just said, that if you put it out there in writing, someone would take it and alter it into a dogma or doctrine that would even possibly move us further away? Or not us, but per se others that want to move them in the wrong direction?
It may or may not.
Saint Augustine type person?
It may or may not. Because some of the stuff that's out there, for example, the one thing, one of the things I should say, one of the things that has helped the people with whom I spoke in Philadelphia was the thing of who are we? You know, by that being there and them having read it and what going through it, that helped move them, you know, to another place. So maybe it's not time, as Sheldon said.
That's it. It's not
maybe
right.
it's not time, but I
words are containers and for thoughts.
yes.
And when thoughts are so fluid that to put them in a container confines it, it puts boundaries around it based on the word that's used. It could be that it's just not time. That thought has to be the experience first. And through the experience and the wisdom of that experience, then
they will have
will
a better
allow
understanding to comprehend the same thing that you're trying to put in words now a little while later. Because I know exactly when I first came in here, if you had started off with this, I would have been lost. It actually seemed like, and I can understand how when the words that need to be said automatically come out, it's like you walked me to this point, like you really came and met me. It seemed like you purposely, just because I sat down over in the corner, purposely came and met me where I was at, and then brought me up to this point.
Well, it's true. And that's what happens when new people come in all the time. It's absolutely true. That's the purpose. And I think we do it without thinking about it. We've done it so much. That's the reality of it. Even when we're talking now online without the glossary thing, I find myself and others going back to make, define terms. So that is very true. I feel like it is necessary for people to understand that what we call the earthly consciousness was purposely formed. And I see it, how it was done, when it was done. I see that. And I believe that if I can get others to see it, then it would be a lot easier for us to move beyond being overwhelmed and to reach not just in this place those who want to move forward, but to be able to reach someone in China without being in China, because we understand how we were wonderfully and fearfully made. That kind of thing, made in a reverential sense, formed for a specific purpose. And then we stop seeing all of these things being negative, because we see that it was the Father or Yahweh in conjunction with Elohim that did the forming, of the attitudes. I think it gives us will give us a great appreciation of the attitudes that we encounter. That's why I want to write it. because I think that when we begin to appreciate the attitudes that we encounter, then we will have a deeper appreciation for each other.
But you want to look at it as just being something bad or negative.
Right.
You will appreciate that other person just as you appreciate anyone else. So you're trying to get take dualism out of the way, and this is just all that exists. Nothing is bad. It's just perceived as being bad.
Which goes right back to the creation story. You know, whenever you can get to the place where you can remove the duality of thought, meaning the duality of thought, the heavenly, which is light, and earthly, which is confusion. If you can remove that duality and see it all as one, then you're right back at the beginning of the creation story. You know, creation story always carries you back to the beginning. Creation story is not about a man and a woman being created. It's not about the moon, the stars, etc. The creation story is about man becoming the God that he is designed to be, the oneness. You cannot have duality and be God. That you can't do that.
Can't have oneness.
God is oneness. Yeah, Aleph is one. You cannot do that. So to be able to take that and show how Yahweh said, I say that you're God. He's, you know, the way that's done, and yet you cling to the separateness, you cling to duality. You see God here and you there, you go die like men. Mm-hmm. So I'm struggling because I can see it, but it's very difficult to articulate what I'm seeing in the whole. And he created them in his image. It doesn't say likeness, it says in his image, which is an image is a shadow. It's the shadow of the one who did the creating. And he created them in his image male and female. And then why does it go to the second one and say that he took from the side of man, right? That I do understand now. That's what I want to write.
And you will, and it's right.
That helps tremendously.
Good, it almost sounds like.
But
it sounds like you're trying to hurry up and end this anxiousness you feel.
Trying to be a butterfly before your time.
You did it. You taught all these people. I'm saying all these things to you.
Evelyn usually the one to give trouble. Like, yeah, see y'all how they acting.
And it takes a while to get through all that you need in the cocoon so that you can be the strongest butterfly you can be when you come out.
Yeah. You know what? We done had to take his stuff. I mean, what he's told us, so now you got.
He's going to fight me by the time this is over.
It's really. And honestly, I was telling Figure while we were gone that every single night I had the weirdest dreams. And I could never explain them, but I can even see them now, but I could never explain them. And it was always something that I realized was what we call supernatural. I knew what it was, but I can't explain them. And even last night, I dreamed about something that I've never dreamed about in my life. And I'm trying to get a handle on what's happening.
I have a question. Do you understand exactly what the dream was about, but you just cannot explain it?
Yeah. Except the one that I don't understand now, but the rest of them, yeah.
Because like the experience was for you then.
No, I don't think so.
You don't think so?
I believe that the experience is for all of us. Maybe it's for all of us but in a different way than what I saw it. I don't think that anything is given to me for me.
I mean, as far as, when I say experience for you, I mean as far as awareness. So even if that awareness, say for example, if you have an experience and a dream a couple of nights ago, even though you cannot explain that dream to me, that is a part of you that you've opened up with yourself. And so all of a sudden how you deal with me and how you deal with others and how you see yourself has changed. So it's still, it was given you a certain way, but it still affects or still given to others. Just not in the way of you intellectually explaining it to them and getting them to see the same exact thing that you saw.
And that's the problem. Therein
That's right,
lies the problem.
intellectual.
Therein lies the problem. Yeah, intellectual.
Yeah, I was just thinking too, as you said that, that's the issue with even these prophets of doom and my struggle with what to do. We're trying to intellectualize something that's going on in the earth that we need to experience and resist reacting to more than we need to understand or plan for.
That makes sense. And therein lies strength. Being able to refrain from reacting to it. And being able to refrain from trying to understand it if it doesn't come. That's difficult. When you're accustomed to doing whatever it takes to get to a place of understanding. That's very, very, very difficult. I don't know.
But it could be the scenario of the thing that you sought to apprehend has to apprehend you. You know, the more we try to understand it, you just have to experience it and be, and then all of a sudden, it's revealed internally.
That's what I think after that. I've been apprehending. I'm trying to figure out what got me. I'm serious.
See.
Oh yeah, it's definitely tell you, yeah, you doing this wrong. You need to chill out.
I'm serious. I feel like I'm in something, you know? Not a bubble in terms of isolated from everyone. I'm in a different place. And
you experience something great and you trying to put a fence around it and understand.
actually what I can't say what I see. It's not so much understanding the place where I am. Mm-hmm. Of course I would like to understand it. Who wouldn't? But knowing where I am and what needs to be done. It's a whole different ballgame. You hear music?
I hear music in the air. No, I'm just listening.
It's disconcerting, however.
Yes, thank you.
However.
That's the no, I'm afraid of the however.
Just be certain that when it's time,
it'll just flow out so
it
easily.
will.
And I know all of that.
That's the problem. You know it. Just be.
Watch when he finally come and tell us how it came. It's gonna be so easy. He's not even gonna be thinking about anything. He's just gonna fall out his mouth.
I feel like
It's almost like a birthing process when all of a sudden you men may not understand it. You
No,
men
they
don't.
don't.
When you feel when the water breaks, there's no pain, there's nothing, but and it's only my water only broke once, but it is just so different that you know what happened. You just know.
That you know that you know.
see.
It just
I'll tell you what I see. I see those 2 chapters, right? And I see everything else as tentacles, extended from those 2 chapters.
what, Genesis 1 and 2?
Yep. And the sections of it that I see it is only the sections that deal with male and female young men. I see everything else as tentacles to
that core.
yeah, to explain that. That's what I see. And to see one of the tentacles of it, for example, to see the cross and see that as the end all is like someone who lives, you know, in a small town and think that's the whole world. Mm-hmm. To see that tentacle and think that this is it, this is where all of it is, right here at the foot of the cross, rather than follow that tentacle back. Because there are other tentacles to it. You know, Constant Christianity has the Jesus thing, and the Catholics have the Pope thing, and Islam has the Muhammad thing. All of these are tentacles. But to stay at that tip and not go back to the core, not see that, is the thing that causes dogma to be developed. Because you stay at that one point. Mm-hmm. You know, it's like the people who, those 200 people they found in Brazil, and, you know, living in the midst of the jungle, to them the whole world is right there. They have had no contact at all with anybody outside of their world. So to them, that's the only world that exists. And I see us having the potential to stop. Does that make sense?
Have the potential to stop.
To stop where we are.
Okay.
That's probably the reason we have to continue to do this teacher thing, to make sure that we don't stop at one of the tentacles called the tree of life. The tree of life is only one of the tentacles that extends from this. It's not the end all. I think that's where the sages went wrong. When they hid everything and shrouded it in words that people did not understand and terminology that they didn't understand, and stopped it with the tenements of the tree of life, as opposed to carrying it back to the core and understanding what is all of this saying, the simplicity of what it's saying. That's why it's so important to look at that thing in Chronicles when Solomon's dedicating the temple. That is a tentacle that extends from that, because the building of his house and the building of the Lord's house is him talking about the place where prayer takes place. Is it going to be your house, or is it going to be the Lord's house? That's what he's actually making reference to, and for him to spend more time